the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? This is that on Ethereum, there's like native functionality that allows you to essentially directly put either ETH or Ethereum-based assets. Jack is basically going to have to essentially create his own system that enforces those rules, and then on the Bitcoin layer, the Bitcoins will just have to be owned by probably a multi-sig wallet controlled by like either Jack or the participants in the system.
Now, whether Bitcoin, Ethereum, or the blockchain really are changing the world seems to be an ongoing debate. Is crypto the future, or is it a fad?
I think it's the future that contains fads, much like the internet was the future and the internet contained fads. There's definitely specific kinds of applications that do get overhyped from time to time, like ICOs back in 2017, and then certain kinds of DeFi right now. But at the same time, there's other DeFi projects that really are valuable. There's a combination of both, right? And figuring out which is maybe it's something that's difficult to see ahead of time, and it's something that we as an ecosystem are going to find out.
So the crypto skeptics, many people that are admired in the financial world, Jamie Dimon, Warren Buffett, are they just wrong?
A lot of them have definitely been just wrong already, right? They expected even back in 2013 to 15, at least some of them, to see blockchains and cryptocurrency fail and go down to zero in price and just not get any more interest completely. And even today, they've already been far more successful than any of them expected. So I can see how people in traditional finance, or at least some of them, can be inclined to kind of not see the value of blockchain-based finance immediately. There's a lot of people, even in traditional banks, that see the value that blockchains provide and have been trying to come up with things and work with them.
One of them is Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey recently announced Square is creating a new business focused on decentralized financial services based on Bitcoin, using Bitcoin. What have you learned about Jack Dorsey's plans? Does it seem like he's building something that sounds a lot like Ethereum?
I'm skeptical about these decentralized finance on top of Bitcoin type of projects. Basically because the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? This is that on Ethereum, there's native functionality that allows you to essentially directly put either ETH or Ethereum-based assets into these smart contracts where there's then arbitrary conditions of any kind that can then govern how those assets get released. Bitcoin does not have that functionality to the same extent. Jack is basically going to have to essentially create his own system that enforces those rules, and then on the Bitcoin layer, the Bitcoins will just have to be owned by probably a multi-sig wallet controlled by either Jack or the participants in the system. It looks similar, but it'll end up being something with a much weaker trust model. Right? I really think that this is the whole reason why Ethereum started as an independent system in the first place, right? There's technical limits to your ability to kind of graft new functionality onto a system that's not powerful enough to support that new functionality.
Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg is also making some big moves behind the metaverse, and what do you make of them wading into this decentralized world? Could they replicate some of the same problems that we see in Facebook and Twitter today?
I think Mark is clearly trying to figure out what the next stage after the internet is and actually get into it and create it. But before the rest of the world goes in some different direction, and Facebook is sort of left in the dust and becomes one of these kind of previous generation old world companies. So we've seen Facebook try to get into the crypto space with Libra, though. I think in the end, Libra did end up being possibly the wrong approach, because like the problem that someone like Facebook has, right, is that a lot of people mistrust them, and so building their own platform, like I know they tried really hard to create something that's a consortium with all these different industry participants, but at the same, like, even that was not enough, right? And there's just a huge amount of mistrust of them. But with the metaverse, I guess the thing that happened during the pandemic is that we've basically very quickly switched from a world where the physical world was people's kind of primary center of experience, and the internet was this new add-on, to a world where the internet really is the center of people's experiences. And so we basically are spending most of our time in a virtual world, and the question is just, like, what level of quality does that virtual world have?
So Ethereum in 5 years and 10 years, where is it?
I mean, hopefully running the metaverse, but I guess we'll see how it goes.
You've got a lot of people out there, a lot of people who are trying to understand cryptocurrency, who are placing their bets. What's your prediction for Bitcoin? Does it replace the dollar? Does it exist in 50 years, or is it something else? And then similarly, what's your prediction for Ethereum? Because a lot of investors are choosing to hold both, or one or the other.
Yeah, I think replacing the dollar completely is unlikely, just because, like, there's things that the dollar provides, like price stability, for example, that Bitcoin is not going to provide. Like, I think even in a theoretical world where the US dollar collapses, like, even then, I think Bitcoin is not going to be able to provide the level of stability that users and businesses expect to be able to set prices in. And in that kind of world, look, we would need something else. Like it could be decentralized stable coins, it could be something else, but we'll see. But at the same time, I think cryptocurrency can still have a very powerful and important role alongside existing currencies.
In the simplest terms, what is Ethereum and how is it different from Bitcoin?
So Bitcoin is a blockchain that's designed for one application, right? Which is like maintaining and letting people use Bitcoin, the currency. Ethereum is a general purpose blockchain. So instead of being a blockchain that's designed for one application, Ethereum is a blockchain that supports a built-in programming language, and whatever blockchain application you want to build, you can just write the logic of that application in the programming language, upload that program to the chain, and this becomes what we call a smart contract. And anyone can then interact with your application, and the blockchain interprets the rules of your application for you. So instead of being something that's designed to do one thing, it's designed to open up space for creativity.
So is the idea then that the next Facebook or Twitter would not be owned by Jack Dorsey or Mark Zuckerberg, but be built on the blockchain and owned by everyone?
There are multiple projects already trying to do that, and lots of them are based on Ethereum, so yes.
So then, is Ethereum a threat to established, centralized companies and social networks like Facebook, like Twitter, like Google?
I think it can be a threat, but it can also be an opportunity. Like, I think even Jack Dorsey himself, right, he has this project called Blue Sky, which is trying to figure out how Twitter can kind of incorporate decentralized elements. And, you know, I think a lot of these projects want to actually do this, right, because I think a lot of them are realizing that being a kind of centralized focus of power and having control and of so much of everyone's data and all of these things, like, it's not just an asset, it can also be a liability as well.
Thank you.